Crowds were laughing, snapping photos, and enjoying the day, until a tourist dog slipped its leash and ran straight at a royal guard. No warning, no hesitation, just chaos. But the way the guard handled it, nobody saw that coming. What looked like a disaster turned into one of the most talked about moments outside Buckingham Palace. Watch closely, because there's more to this story than meets the eye. And if you've ever wondered what really happens when things go wrong near the guards, stick around and share this with someone who thinks they've seen it. It was a picture-perfect afternoon in London, clouds drifting over the city, sunlight dancing off the palace gates, and a sea of tourists gathered for a glimpse of tradition. Among them stood the iconic Queen's Guard, rigid posture, crimson tunic, bearskin hat, unshakable and unblinking. Private Callum Wright was on duty that day. At just 22 years old, he had already earned a reputation for remarkable discipline. His fellow guards called him the Statue, not because he was unfeeling, but because nothing ever rattled him. In the crowd, a tourist stood out. Mid-30s, American accent, camera slung across his chest. He spoke loudly, laughed often, and didn't seem all that interested in the rules. But what drew more attention than his voice was the dog, an energetic German shepherd on a bright orange leash, tugging hard, barking at pigeons, snapping at the heels of passers-by. Most people kept their distance. Signs were everywhere. Do not touch the guards, do not cross the line, maintain control of pets. But this man? He edged closer and closer. The leash stretched tighter with each step. Callum saw them, of course. He was trained to notice everything, from suspicious movement to subtle sounds. But he didn't react. He couldn't. His job was to stand watch, to protect the post, to show strength through stillness. The dog barked again, louder this time. The tourist chuckled, telling someone next to him, "He's just excited, wants to say hi to the guard." He was treating the moment like a show, but this wasn't a show. Nearby visitors shifted nervously. A mother moved her toddler behind a stroller. A couple stepped back. But the man remained, phone in hand, trying to get that perfect shot. Him, his dog, and a real-life Queen's Guard in one photo. Private Wright stayed motionless, his training suppressing every natural instinct to glance or shift. But even he could feel the tension rising. The dog's posture was changing, ears up, back tense, tail rigid. Something was coming. And the worst part, no one else seemed ready for it. The crowd's chatter suddenly dropped. It happened in an instant. The leash slipped. No tug, no command. Just a snap of tension released, and the dog was loose. The German shepherd bolted toward the guard with a growl that cut through the air. People gasped. A child shrieked. Several tourists instinctively stepped back. Phones that were recording turned shaky, and the lens now focused on something no one had come to see. Danger. Private Wright didn't move, not at first. In the face of chaos, he held firm. But his eyes, sharp, focused, tracking the threat. His body may have looked frozen, but his mind was racing. The dog lunged at his legs, teeth flashing. There was no time to think, only act. With a precise shift, Callum angled his boot forward and braced, subtly positioning himself to deflect. The motion was small, controlled, but it made all the difference. The dog hit his leg, bounced slightly off the resistance, then circled, barking furiously. It wanted a reaction, but none came. Not the kind it expected anyway. Behind the line, the tourist froze. Panic spread across his face as he realized what had just happened. He yelled the dog's name, twice, but it didn't matter. The leash dangled from his hand like an afterthought. Nearby tourists filmed every second. One whispered, "Oh my God, he's going to get hurt." Another said, "That guard's going to snap." But the snap never came. Instead, Callum did what almost no civilian could believe. He stood tall. His rifle never lifted. His expression never changed. His voice never spoke. It was eerie, and it was powerful. The tourist rushed forward, pushing past people, grabbing at the dog's collar. It took several tries, but he finally clipped the leash back on. He didn't look up. He couldn't. Shame had taken the place of arrogance. Seconds later, another guard marched toward them, tall, older, and composed. Without hesitation, he addressed the man. "Sir, you are in violation of multiple safety rules. Remove your animal and exit the premises. No raised voice, no accusation, just calm authority. The kind that doesn't ask for respect, it commands it. The tourist muttered something that might have been an apology. No one cared. The crowd had already turned their attention back to the true focus. The young guard, who never budged. And the dog? It walked away, tail down, no longer barking. Even it seemed to understand it had met something, or someone, it couldn't shake. In less than 30 seconds, the situation went from tense to defused. But what lingered was the silence, the awe, the realization that this wasn't just about a dog, it was about the discipline, the control, the unseen weight of a job most people underestimate. Once the dog was restrained and the man escorted away, the crowd remained, quiet, unsure. Phones still pointed toward the young guard, but no one knew what to say. They had just witnessed something rare, something that defied the usual viral drama of tourist antics. Private Wright hadn't just stood still. He had controlled the narrative. In a world obsessed with reaction, he chose restraint. And that left a bigger impact than any confrontation ever could. The footage began circulating within hours. First on TikTok, then YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. "Dog attacks Royal Guard," the caption screamed. But what people noticed wasn't the dog. It was the guard's composure. Comment sections flooded in. "This man's made of steel. He didn't even blink." The definition of self-control. Even those who normally joked about the guards had a new tone, respect. Behind the scenes, the British Army took note, not for punishment, but for praise. Private Wright followed protocol perfectly. He protected the post, ensured the safety of the public, and avoided escalation, all without breaking formation. And while the tourist was not officially named, reports indicated he was briefly detained, fined for public disruption, and issued a formal warning. His dog was evaluated and later deemed non-aggressive, just overstimulated. But the story didn't end with punishments. It carried into larger conversations about the role of the guards, the expectations placed on them, and the risks they silently manage every day. Some began asking deeper questions. Should there be barriers to protect the guards? Should tourists with pets be restricted in royal zones? Should training evolve even more to deal with modern disruptions? For Private Wright, the aftermath was quiet. He returned to duty the next morning, same post, same stance. He didn't seek fame. He didn't post a statement. But what he represented became something larger than him. To many, he became a symbol of professionalism, of calm under pressure, and of the dignity that still lives in service roles often mocked or misunderstood. Days later, a note appeared at the palace gates. No name. Just a handwritten message that read, "To the guard who didn't move, you taught my kids more about strength than any video ever could." And that's the legacy. Not the dog, not the mistake, but the reminder that true power isn't always loud. Sometimes it stands silent and doesn't flinch. What happened that day outside Buckingham Palace wasn't just a viral clip. It was a masterclass in human behavior. On one side, recklessness and ego. On the other, responsibility and restraint. Some saw the clip and laughed. Others debated protocol or blamed the tourist. But many just watched in silence, realizing they had underestimated the people behind the red coats and stoic faces. There's a reason the Royal Guard is iconic. It's not just the uniform or the ceremony, it's the standard, the invisible line they draw between order and chaos, even when the rest of us forget it's there. Think about it. Most people can't go 30 seconds without reacting to noise, stress, or confrontation. Now imagine standing in front of thousands of strangers every day while being filmed, taunted, joked at, and tested without reacting. And yet, when something real happens, when the test isn't playful but dangerous, they respond not with panic, but poise. Private Callum Wright didn't need to yell. He didn't need to fight back. He won the moment by staying grounded when everything else was pulling him off balance. In a world that rewards outrage, he showed us the strength of staying calm. And maybe that's what stuck with people. Because deep down, we all want to believe someone will stay strong when things go wrong, that there's still a place for discipline, still a reason to hold the line. This wasn't a story about a dog. It was about respect, about what it looks like when someone honors their duty, even when no one else around them does. So next time you see a guard standing silent, eyes fixed ahead, Don't laugh, don't cross the line, don't test the limits just for a reaction. Instead, take a second to recognize what they represent. The calm, the control, the code that doesn't break. Because when it really matters, we need people like that. And if this story moved you, if it made you see these quiet figures in a new light, share it. Let someone else remember what real strength looks like. Because in the end, it wasn't the bark or the bite. It was the silence that made the world listen.